Hey there, friendlies. How's up? Welcome to the 26th of August episode of the Bevies, Blades, and Bushcraft, where we have bevies, we got blades, and we are tonight actually going to talk about something bushcraft adjacent. In fact, we're talking about the top 10 tools you bring on an overnighter in the woods. But first, I shall pour. And right after I'm finished pouring, I will say that I'm going to do the typical housekeeping, and that's the part where I say that if you're watching us time shifted to tomorrow or next week or next month or whatevs, thank you for watching. Thank you for participating in the conversation, even if you can't necessarily show up right here on the live. I love knowing that you're out there, that you're watching after the fact, and that every now and again one or two of you drop a couple of comments in the doobly-doo down below. If at any point tonight you love what's going on, that's terrific. I'd like you to celebrate that by dropping me a smiley thumb. If at any point tonight you really don't like what's happening, you think this whole thing stinks, that's okay. You can, excuse me, drop me a frowny thumb. That works just as well. And if you'd like to take a more active role, as several in the side chat already have, and help to pay the bills around here related to the channel, then I invite you to investigate the join button. You give it the old right click, open it in another tab, and there you will find the goodies that are available to you on either of the two tiers of membership that are available to you for your hard-earned cash. And now I shall do a quick hello to everyone sipping on my non-alcoholic beer, because as I told you guys previous, I'm doing dry week. And we're kind of in a golden age for non-alcoholic beer, but this one doesn't count. So who we got with us? Okay, who's here? Excuse me. Marcus was number one today. Finally, Marcus at 8:10, but you know, Peanut Trucker number two, and Marcus, by the way, as I have said before, is a channel hero. Peanut Trucker popping in. He's a channel mod, saying he's going to be late again, doing the I-5 shuffle between Oregon and California. Tried to get to Bellingham, Washington to sneak up to see Country Boy. Guess that didn't work. That's too bad. That would have been cool. Country Boy says, "Don't blow smoke up my arse, Chris. You aren't coming to BC. We'll see you when you get here." Yeah, you guys could meet at the border for the, what's that thing called, the Peace Arch, the Friendship Arch. What's that park that's half in Canada and half in the States? You guys can stand on opposite sides of that thing and throw flowers at each other. Whoa, you drove almost 7 hours straight to get home in time for this live. That's amazing. And I believe you've got a fancy new bottle at your house, don't you, Mr. Country Boy? Christy popping in to say hi. Christy is a channel hero. Country Boy is a channel hero and a channel mod, so be nice. Or get a little country boot up your arse, so to speak. We got Serge popping in at 8:41. That's pretty early for you, Serge. Nice to see you. I did a pour, and it wasn't too bad. Christy's asking Scott where he was at. That was 7 hours away. He was on that cool country trip. Country Boy was in the country. Hi there, Grace. Oof. I don't know if I'm going to finish this. It's not bad. I mean, I've had worse. Country Boy says, I was in central BC for a fishing trip that turned into a stay at a buddy's trip because it was way too hot to fish. It was still a blast. I was wondering if it was because when I was in Alberta, it was not hot, man. It was chilly and rainy. But back here, Christy says, "Oh yeah, that is right. The non-bourbon drinking group. Yeah, I remember that as well." Country Boy still got a couple of nice salmon because you have native friends up there, and it's dip netting season on the Fraser. Interesting. Just sort of 50.5 ABV. That's a cask strength. The Bridgeland that I got, which I did not bring home, was I believe 61.9%. Mark Davidson saying hi to everyone. How you doing, Mark? I'm Mark is a channel hero. Yeah, cast strength is almost always like a small batch, right? Because what they do is, okay, not always, but generally, cast strength. I was going to say something, but it's not 100%. Like very often, like a cast strength will. I'm just going through like the cast strength bottles I have, and I'm rethinking what I was about to say, because what I was going to say is that cast strength is usually all from like one cask, but it doesn't have to be. Very often that'll say like a single cask. Cask strength, it just means that it's non-diluted. So if you have a cask that's at like 41% and you have a cask that's at, whatever, 42%, for instance, I'm ruining this. Say you have two casks of whiskey. They're both over 40. Whatever, 160, 150, or whatever. If you pour those two casks together and then pour them into bottles without dilution, then it's the average between the two, right? Between the 50 and the 60. You cut it in half. And that's what the ABV of all your bottles is. Single cask means if you have one cask that's at 55.5%, every bottle in that batch will match what that cask is rather than the average of two casks or four or whatever, because most, when you get your 40% whiskey, it comes out of the cask at whatever it is, and then they add water until the measurement is 40%, because 40 is the minimum you can have and still call it whiskey. But yeah, number of bottles always means batched though, so batch 1 and batch 2 or 3 and batch 4 might be very different. The Alberta premium cask strength rye, there's a unifying character that goes through all of them, but each batch is a little different ABVs, different flavor profiles. Crazy Life Homestead saying hi, gang. Hello, Crazy Life. How are you doing? I'm just making sure I've said hi to everyone so far. Okay. Yes. Christy's asking Scott if he's ever had it before, and he says it's brand new. Ad. Okay. Wow, that's a weird time for an ad. Yeah, Country says he's glad I don't have an easy time explaining it either. Yeah, it's because I was sort of glitching there, but what else? Russell is here. Hi, Russell. Russell is all the things. He's a channel hero and a channel mod. He's having a Guinness poured in a Stella glass. Wow. Okay. All right. It's classy of you. Okay. So top 10 things for an overnighter. Uh, Russell suggested this question for tonight, and I'm interested to know what you guys see as your top 10 things. September 4th at 8. Okay. I have a personal top 10. I looked up a couple of top 10s, several top 10s online as well, to see if we're all of one mind or not. I see already. Peanut Sugar said food. Yeah, okay, that's it. That wasn't on my list because I guess I sort of thought of the top 10 as like the tools rather than the consumables. Like, well, consumables. I mean, if you have a hurricane lantern, then oil is a consumable. But okay, let's make things like food, stove, gas canisters, oil for the lanterns, whatever. Let's make all that stuff your get out of jail free card. Those things don't count against the 10 items, okay? Because you're right. Food is very important, and you could very easily make this list a top 20. Oil for the lantern, food, whiskey, water. So we'll make those things like givens. We'll turn it into just the tools, tool, and bedding or tent or whatever. Like the items. Okay, hold on. Yeah, so Peanut Trucker said food, but we're gonna give that that one's gonna be a given. David Evans popping in to say hi. How you doing, David? David Evans is a channel hero and a channel mod. Christy also says number food and number 2 booze. We'll have those as givens, Christy. Country Boy is a first aid. That's an important one. Yeah. Shall we write these down, or is somebody already keeping track here? I'm looking for a little scrap of paper. I'm looking for a little pen. Scrap of paper. Got pen. Here's a pen. Couldn't have come at a better time. That was the worst. Okay, number 1 says these won't necessarily be in order of importance, but we'll say that one of them is a first aid kit. Okay. Okay, first aid kit. Oh, Country Boy says 2 is a Garmin. Okay. All right. Anyone else agree that a Garmin? Well, okay. I just received a picture. Okay, so Country Boy also says 2 a Garmin. Appropriate sleep gear. Yeah, so I would just call that a sleeping bag, blanket, etc. For axe, okay. Five says Country Boy is knife. David Evans pops in with toilet paper. I'm gonna add that as number 6. I mean, we'll just add everything and then sort of come around to a consensus. Excuse me. Allergic to my basement. Country Boy says your favorite meal, but that's food, so we're not going to count that. Country Boy says 7, protection. I've never brought anything other than like my axe or my knife as quote protection unquote. But I have brought like no, I have gone to buy before like bear spray and stuff like that. We can add like critter protection. We'll include water with and beer with the food stuff. Yeah, Russell thinks we should all list our top 10 items like Scott is doing. Yeah. Country says good company. That's kind of food of a different kind. That's food for the soul. Well, hey, there's Destiny. How you doing? How you doing, Destiny? Destiny is a channel hero, by the way. David says shovel to dig a hole to use with your toilet paper. Russell says wet wipes. I would not bring wet wipes because of the biodegradability. They do make biodegradable wet wipes, I think. Grace says no Garmin, but you take your phone. So I'm going to put phone, Garmin / phone. Yeah, Country Boy says unto David, I live in BC. I always have green leaves for bog roll. That's true. David says to Country Boy, I assume since you live in BC, I assume protection means condoms. That's a terrible thing to say. Russell says number 3 is a ferro rod. Nice. Gotta have a ferro rod. Destiny says that Kristen makes a good point with booze on the list, but yeah, but booze it counts as food and water. So I'm just that's the wait list item on the list. We don't have to list that; it's sort of a given. Whoop, we're at the bottom already. So I'll read you a couple of top 10 lists. Here's one from Walk Wild. It's the top 10 bushcraft tools you will need on your outdoor adventures. Now that's tool specific, but here I'll read it to you anyway. I don't quite agree with it because I feel that it's too narrow of scope. But anyway, one is a fixed blade knife. Homie in the house. How you doing? I'm just seeing hold on. Yeah, there he is. Popping in at 9:20. Homie, you sent me a picture. Did you not? Can I show it? Oh, piss. It went away. Hold on. There it is. I know what that axe is. I'm not going to spoil. I'll show the picture, but you get to tell them what axe that is. Hold on. Oh man, you have my envy. I don't have the bank account to buy one of those these days. When did that arrive? Where was I? Destiny says, "Hey there, David Evans and Country Boy. I missed you at the impromptu drinks live with the Jess. Country Boy was out in the woods, and David, I don't know where that guy was. I just don't know." So David says, "What about cooking gear, plates, utensils, cup, etc.?" Okay, yeah, right. So the Walk Wild list. Let me move a couple of windows around so that I'm not craning all the way over there. Okay. Fixed blade knife. I agree completely. Cooking pot. Absolutely. You need some kind of container that you can cook in. For me, I default to a pot, but some people use like a wide mouth, like a clean canteen. Obviously, the non-coated and doubled one with a fish spreader, so that you can use it to say, hang it over the fire to boil, to boil your water to purify it or whatever. But you can also do stew in it if you want. But I like to keep my clean canteen for water, carrying, purifying and stuff, and have a pot for food prep. Though I have used the pot to boil water for hot chocolate or soup or whatever in the past. But let me finish with this list. Fixed blade knife, cooking pot, lightweight tarp. Yep. That's if you don't want to bring a tent, right? You need something. No, you could build a lean-to. That's true. That's very true. But I would want to have the tarp anyway, just in case I'm not finding enough standing deadwood to make a little lean-to with. Like, to me, the tarp would be the baseline. If I'm finding all these sticks, I'd be like, I can build a little roof here. Cordage, I agree with. Headlamp or flashlight, that's pretty smart. If you have a phone, you can do the same thing, but I do like to have more of a dedicated headlamp. Fire starter or a ferro rod is number 7. No, it's not. It's number 6. 7 is a folding saw. 8 is an axe or hatchet. 9 is a personal water filter, which is another. If you're in the woods, I gotta stop yawning. If you're in the woods, you've got to purify your water. You can either do that with tablets, boiling, or like a life straw or something, but you need some kind of option for that. 10, first aid kit. The thing I don't like about that list is I don't see a sleeping bag or a wool blanket or anything. And I would give up. Would I give up a saw, an axe, or a knife? Let me think on it. Hold on. Let me go back on up. Back on up. Homie says that axe is a Liam Hoffman 3-pound, 32-inch carved handle. Holy crap. Whew. That's an axe. You got just a couple of days ago, okay? Destiny is asking, homie, why the axe handle curves like that? It is a grip thing. Yeah. I'm just gonna boom. Gonna go back. Russell Rock agrees. Cooking pot for sure. Yep. Raspberry Rock says tent. So Russell would prefer a tent over a tarp. Oh, hey, there's Beto. How you doing, Beto? We're building a top 10 items list. Oh, man, if I'm already yelling, that's not great. A top 10 outdoor items list for like just an overnighter in the woods, not like a week long or anything. Just going out overnight, coming home. Russell says number 6 is sleeping, but I think he might mean sleep. Yeah, sleeping bag. Destiny says summary. 1, protection. 2, communication. 3, cooking. 4, shelter. 5, select tools. 6, fire starter. 7, water filter. 8, booze. 9, first aid kit. 10, fave food. Okay, so homie is like maybe a bow. Like, yeah, if you're gonna be hunting for your own food and you've got the appropriate license in the area where you are and it's the season, sure, absolutely. Country boy is a klutz, so first aid is always number one. Yeah, first aid is very important, and you really do need to have a first aid kit that, yes, is well rounded, but leans a little more on trauma, you know, than I've got a headache, because there's a lot of trauma that you might accidentally um, inflict upon yourself with knife, saw, axe, fire, Grace says, first I camped in the woods. I slept directly on the ground under branches and leaves lean-to. Luckily, the weather was nice. When I did my survival school in junior leadership school, we built lean-to glitching. We built lean-tos and slept under them on the ground. Yeah. I don't think I've built a lean-to in years. And maybe I should go out and build one of those just to sort of get the old skills back up. Russell says, stainless steel water container that can be heated over a fire, i.e. not double walled. I absolutely agree. Absolutely. David says, portable power source. I would like one of those if I was doing a top 15 or top 20, but if I'm only out there overnight, like I'll just power up my phone before leaving and don't watch TikToks all night kind of thing. Also, we're not talking about if you're going out for like a YouTubing overnighter. Like we'll just, that's all aside from this. Whether if you're, these are the overnight camping tools. Russell says number 8, backpack. So that's an interesting question. Do we consider the bag as one of these, or is that another given? Because like, is it a given that you need something to carry all these things to the campsite in? And like, if it is, then like maybe would a haversack be on the list, because that's something that you just sort of put over your shoulder if you're going out to gather tinder or edibles or something. I mean edibles like you're gathering, not that you're popping by the dispensary for some gummies. Peanut Chugger says a fishing pole should be on there. For a lot of people, it sure is. I mean, look at how many Joe Robinette's videos where he catches his lunch, right? For some people who can fish, yeah. Yeah, Destiny wants it, that portable power source on there. Homie says hammock, or does that just fall under shelter? If it's a camping hammock, I would put that under shelter. Like I would do like tarp / tent / hammock, because what else is there? What else is there? David says survival kit. Like what would you put in a survival kit though? Right? Like, are you talking about one of those things that used to be in the hollow handle of one of those 80s era Rambo Bowie knives? Up north at 60 in the house. How are you doing, mister? I haven't seen you in a minute. Ferro rod, axe, multi-tool. Okay, headlamp, firearm, cooking pot, individual first aid kit. navigation communication device, military modular sleep system. That is a very specific kit. Looks pretty good. Down where I am, I would put in bear spray instead of the firearm, unless I'm in a season where I can maybe like bag a pheasant or something. Communication device, I think, is important. A lot of these sort of traditional top 10s don't include like phone or, what's it called, the spot or anything like that. But I mean, if you're way up north or something and you're legit alone, then I would absolutely need to have something like that on my person. Let me just pour the rest of this de-alcoholized beer. And it's funny because like I prefer the fire steel over the ferro rod if I'm just having fun, but I will admit the ferro rod has let me down way less than the flint and steel has. So and it's easier to the portability. 90% of the time on a knife of mine, I'll just have it sort of not on this one, but I would have it sort of in a loop on the sheath. Does this even have a ferro rod? I don't think so. No. It has a spoon bit. Oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Come on, fool. Get your ass out of there. Ferro rod, people. Of course, Victorinox would do that. What's this? This is tweezers, right? Is this tweezers? Tweezers. I've got a whole survival kit here. So what's this one? This one must be an all. This one has to be an all. Yeah, that's an all. All is so much more important than people tend to think. Yeah, ferro rod, axe, multi-tool, headlamp, firearm, cooking pot. So the multi-tool is going to have a tiny saw in it, right? And it's going to have a little blade in it. So in up north the 60s list, you don't need to bring a belt knife and a folding saw. And you're bringing the military modular sleep system because it sort of handles sleeping bag and tarp kind of thing all in one. Yeah, it's a good list. Homie is about knives and a multi-tool for sure. Oh no, it just sort of jumped again. But what I mean is it sort of, as I scrolled down, it suddenly went back to all these really early messages. So I'm just going to scroll through it and hope I don't miss anyone. 2135. I hate it when it does this. Like it just copied everything up until up north of 60s note. And just dropped it right in there again. Scrolling. Now keep scrolling right. God, why do you do this? Why do you this to me? Destiny says, never mind the backpack, I just used the bra. It's stealth and relatively warm. I do not know what she's talking about. Up north of 60 is responding to Destiny that it's an individual first aid kit, which is, and I had said earlier that you want a pretty well endowed. Sorry, it's just Destiny said bra. A fairly well equipped first aid kit, but you definitely want it to lean a little more on the trauma stuff. Like bandages, maybe a tourniquet, that powder you put on wounds to make it start clawed up. Stuff like that. Fox, it says, by the way, hi, mister. Backpacking can be considered a container. However, I wager to say it's a given as an essential. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm falling down on the side of your top 10 are in a backpack. We don't have to count the backpack the same way as we're not counting food, beverages, or your best mates. you know, Country Boy loves what Destiny said. Atta girl, here's what you got. I'm just scrolling because people are all just sort of saying hi to each other. I know that every time I do this, I miss something. Sorry, guys. Okay, so David is clarifying what he said before. A survival kit like we made in the Scouts: compass, solar blanket, fish line and hooks, water purification tablets, knife and stuff. Yeah. And did you guys make them to fit into a specific sized container? Country Boy makes an interesting point. People seem to be leading to survival items. This is just an overnight, and it's funny because what survival is camping by accident, right? Whereas going out for an overnighter is hitting the woods for the enjoyment of the woods. So yes, a first aid kit no matter what. Sleeping bag or wool blanket, whichever you prefer. Some kind of shelter, whether it's a tarp, tent, or a camping hammock. I'm sorry for the yawns tonight, guys. It's my first week back at work, and I am missing the time off. To be honest, I'm missing the week before when I was living like a rock star. I really like that week. We do. So let's riff off of this a little bit, okay? Bag is a given. Food is a given. Okay, you need a fire starting element. Many of you have said ferro rod. Excuse me, and I'll go with it. Even though my preference, as I've said, is flint and steel, I'll go with ferro rod for sure. Food pot. But if you have a food pot, do you need a water bottle then? Right? Like for instance, I always struggle whenever I'm trying to come up with. I make lists all the time, right? Top 10, funk albums, top 10 folk albums, my top 5 Celtic bands. In this kind of list, where it's your top 10 overnight items or camping tools kind of thing, I love an axe. I love a knife. I like a saw, but a saw can be really, really important. Is a saw more important than an axe? Um, Conceptually, possibly, right? Because what you can do with a saw, if you got a long, skinny-ish or whatever, you can cut halfway through and then just wind up and boom that thing against a tree on the opposite side to the cut, and it'll split that the side of the wood that you're not holding, right? So you can still split wood without an axe, or you can baton on any knife that's not a Canadian belt knife. Only the OGs are going to know what I'm talking about there. Here's what I'm going to do. Let's make a poll. Let's ask you guys, because it's something that I struggle with all the time. And I always just end up overpacking, right? I was like, I want an axe because I love the axe. I want this knife because I love this knife. I want this saw because I like having a saw. I'm going, and no, it's not going to be a Q&A. It's going to be a poll. I've never made a Q&A. Okay. Pick one option. So axe and knief, saw and knief, axe and saw, axe and knife, saw and knife, axe and saw, or all three. Leave this open for 10 minutes. The reason why it's important to decide there is because no matter what, like, actually, or can someone get by with just an axe? Right? Can someone get by with just a knife? I wish I'd added those to the poll, but I was impulsive. It's not funny. Like, the more cutting tools we add to our top 10, the less room there is for water purification or a pot or your blanket or sewing kit in case your tarp or your tent or your shelter or your pants get ripped. And how many of you guys see your survival items and your camping or bushcraft items as the same kit? Because I'm just now sort of in my head going through my kit, and I do have a couple of like survival specific items. But like if I was to build a go bag because something was going down, a lot of the stuff in that bag would be bushcraft stuff because that's the kind of stuff I'm more interested in buying when I'm shopping, when I'm thinking about what I want to do next year, kind of thing. Um, David Evans says, "Not really. Never go into the woods with a survival kit." So Russell says, "An overnighter suggests you're going somewhere known or easy to get to. You might not need communication, navigation, or fancy stuff. Maybe you don't. Maybe. I would I would like to have communication because even if I'm somewhere relatively relatively close, if I slip and blast my knee against a rock, I don't want to crawl out of there dragging my leg, kind of thing. I want to be able to say, I'm down, I need help, send chocolate and help, kind of thing. I would say if you it, I was about to move on, but I'm gonna riff a little bit more on Russell's comment because he says you might not need communication, navigation, or fancy stuff. So if I'm pulling up to either an official campsite or I'm pulling into a little acre that I own or that I go to all the time, that's right by the side of a road, I probably won't need navigation because I'm not finding a place to stay, right? I'm going to a place I go to every weekend or two, he said dreamily, and I'm setting up my tarp, tent, hammock, or lean-to in the same place I always do. Okay, I won't need navigation on that trip, kind of thing. So, I mean, Russell and David and Scott are all highlighting elements of this list that show that it's not a monolithic thing. because if you live on a chunk of land as big as Russell's, I would have a hard time not having like a map and compass with me kind of thing, at least, or a Garmin or something. But if I was just going to a little chunk of land that I go to all the time, then I would feel pretty comfortable. I park, I walk about 50, 20 meters into the woods. Maybe I've even got my trail marked off. Sorry. Russell likes the idea of a tent because of the weather. Because if the weather, yeah, Russell likes the idea of a tent because if the weather turns inclement, you can retreat into your tent and still do stuff. Maybe craft, make some food. Yeah, that's true. That's an excellent point. I mean, especially look, if you're winter camping, you want a tent. You know, um, but yeah, like if you're like rain bound for 3 days or kind of thing, and you're like, nothing to do. I would rather be in a tent than a hammock for that kind of thing. What I mean is, if your overnighter extends, or if your overnighter ends up with you just sitting under your tarp or in your tent the whole day and a half or whatever, tent is better. I can just kick back and read. I can stare at my phone and doom scroll. I can carve a spoon. Although if I'm gonna start doing things like carving, then I'd really rather have been under a tarp so that I'm not, I don't have to sweep out the tent before packing it up. Pack it up, pack it in, let me begin. Destiny says, every time we had everything we needed in the vehicle, nothing unexpected happened. The moment we forgot to reload the vehicle, like after a detail appointment, we get a sudden storm from hell. Yeah, that's along the kind of experiences that I've had too, for sure. Ads again. I don't even know if I'm getting ads because I'm looking at all these lists of these top 10 lists. All these top 10 lists. Homie says cordage. Man, it's important to have cordage. If you're Ray Mears and you can use withies and stuff, and or inner bark from the Huffalump tree to braid your own cordage, okay. But I'm not doing that. I want to at least have some bank line. I mean, I'd rather paracord, but bank line in a pinch for sure. Yeah, Destiny says, and this is important. Great topic is there can be a lot of overlap. Like a survival kit may have shelter items in it. Cell phone could act as a light, etc. Yeah. In fact, a lot of well done survival kits, like David was mentioning, will have that little Mylar emergency blanket. Yeah, you can wrap yourself up in that and stay warm, or you can use it to make what did Morris Kahansky call it? A super shelter? Was that what he called it? Right? With like the Mylar, and like you're reflecting the fire heat back at you and stuff. Anytime you can pack your bag, whether it's in this kind of streamlined packing list or full, I like to have as many multi-purpose items as possible. So like a knife is a cutting implement for sure. You can, especially if you have a lanyard on it, you can use it for some light chopping. You can baton with it for splitting. Use it for food prep. You can use the back of it with a ferro rod. In a pinch, if you have the flint but lost the steel, you can use the back of a carbon steel knife as your fire steel as well. Tap, tap, tap. I don't like doing it because I feel bloody dangerous holding. Because what you do then, it's non-alcoholic. I was like, I'm not opening this up with. Is you take your knife and you This is the sharp side, okay? I hate doing this. I've only done it once because I dropped my fire steel. You hold it like this as carefully as you can. In fact, I would do it in my left hand because I'm right-handed, and then you take your flint, and I don't remember how I held the char cloth. Maybe with this finger or something. I don't remember how I did it, but I was like tap, 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 and finally sparks. Because I was getting sparks, but it's really hard to control like this, and when you don't have just a fire steel and a flint. And as I said, I do not back the concept of doing that unless you have absolutely no choice. It's not a best practice. Country Boy says, it doesn't matter if you live like a rock star or not, you are a rock star regardless. Rock and real. So if I do this, you got to imagine, a fiddle playing in the background or mandolin or something. Okay, Disney, I'll take this. I'll run with this. You say you think it depends on the person. Some may need a pot for cooking. Others would know how to make their own in the bush. Yeah, I'm not that person. I've watched Ray Mears do it on several episodes, or I think I even saw Les Stroud do it once. But because there's traditional knowledge for you, right? Like the Haida and all them making these birch bark water vessels, big water vessels, filling them with water, and then boiling that water by taking rocks out of the fire and dropping it into the water, and just until it cooks the soup or whatever, or boils the water. I mean, there's a lot of wood skills that I, at this point in my life, I'm not going to develop at all. Someday I might like to make like a water dish or whatever they're called out of birch bark, but it's just so much simpler for me to throw my little Morris pot onto the coals. Anodized aluminum, very non-traditional knowledge, but in fact, that one sort of comes more from the survival side of things, right? Because that was an old Morris's pot was an old Royal Canadian Air Force survival pot. That was, that pilots would have in their stuff, like under their seat. But yeah, because I'm just thinking, the reason I went to that sort of Haida thing is because when I'm thinking about making a container out in the bush, I'm always thinking about how to cook food or boil water to purify it. So, and there's not a lot that you can find in the woods, sorry, that you can just throw over a fire the way you can with like an aluminum pot or a stainless steel pot or a cast iron Dutch oven. So, like, I think Destiny, you're right, but it takes someone with a higher skill level than mine to be like, I shall create my own cooking vessel out of these trees and these grasses and maybe this rock. I'll hollow out a rock by just rubbing it with sand for a whole freaking year. Russell says, Destiny's right. Some of us aren't afraid of a little metallurgy during an overnighter. David, this is an interesting point too, actually. David says it would be interesting to split the list into essentials and nice to haves. For example, fire starting matches, ferro rod is an essential. Homie says, I just like the axe, knife, and saw combo, even if it's not necessary. But in the winter, all three for sure. I would agree with that. In the winter, for sure, all three. Absolutely. How long did I say I was leaving that that poll up for? I don't remember. Should I just end it? Just end it. Destiny says, like the people who know say, always be prepared, no matter the length of the stay, the location. She can hit the fan anywhere, anytime. That's true. That's very true. Yeah. Hike with Mike says, bear spray. Hi, Hike with Mike. Yeah, I would absolutely bring bear spray out into the woods for sure. Russell says, Destiny is right. Again, if you can't march into a strange forest naked with nothing but a knife in your hand, you're not ready for an overnighter. Russell's in fine form tonight, I see. Hike with Mike is also with the power banks. A couple of you said that. I don't see the need for that if I'm just going on an overnighter, unless I'm like staring at my, unless after everything is done, instead of sitting there and staring into the fire, I'm sitting there and staring into this thing. Jim's driving home and listening. How you doing, Jim? Howdy. Country Boy says, this topic is so dependent on so many things. I have all the survival stuff in my truck at all times, and I don't go anywhere without my truck. Top 10 for me are more wants than needs. I used to have a first, like a sort of a little survival kit that I'd put together in my wife's vehicle. But one day, somehow it got left out in the rain. Like we were packing and unpacking or something, and it got just sort of laid aside. And then later that day, and we just spaced it. And later then that day, there was a huge deluge that kind of rusted, soaked, and ruined the vast majority of the things. I keep thinking I'm gonna make her another kit. I'm gonna end the poll now because it's a minute to 10 o'clock. 46% of you said axe and knife. 38% of you said all three. 15 said saw and knife, and absolutely none of you said axe and saw. Interesting little spread there. Excuse me. Saw and knife might be a good combo. I just love having an axe along, you know? David is asking, Country Boy, do you camp next to your truck or do you walk into the bush? I bet you Country Boy's got one of those. What's that little cabin called that you put on the back of a pickup? You can just sort of roll a mattress or a sleeping bag in there, like put down the tailgate, roll your stuff in, and then just crawl in and go to sleep. Hi, good. Mike says, I have a stone to strike. My flint sparks right up. Yeah, I do love flint and steel, for sure. Country Boy says, unto David, my truck is specially built to get me to places most can't get to. So my truck is an essential part of my kit. Russell says, Scott is right. We should all have a truck as part of our kit. Am I going to start on my anti-pickup diatribe again? Extra batteries. But Hike, you must go on a lot of just overnighters. Do you always bring like a power bank or extra batteries when you're just going on an overnighter? Because, I mean, you're doing more camping trips than I am at this point. I'm sort of, to me, the whole thing feels historical at this point in my goddamn life. David says, unto Country Boy, that's great, but most people don't have that kind of truck. That's true. That's true. I mean, he's got a specially built up. David is right. Most people don't have a truck. Country Boy says that his truck is a conveyance as well as a shelter with the canopy. Yeah, so you got the canopy. Basic survival elements never leave the truck. I recommend it to everyone. That little Ford Maverick, I mean, they sell that as you pick either um, internal combustion or a hybrid, and it's not a wicked upcharge for the hybrid. It's like they're two standard options. Makes no sense. But like when you order that, you can pick either, and it's not like this weird package to get the hybrid engine. But you do forego the all wheel drive, which makes no sense to me. Countrywide says, "I'm not most people." And Destiny pops in with, "That needs to be a quotable quote and a bumper sticker." Um, David says, "Here's my last word on always planning for the worst. We all have a spare tire in our car or truck, just in case we get a flat. Nobody plans on getting a flat, but it happens when you least expect it." I like that comment because it allows me to riff on the fact that there are now vehicles you can buy. I don't mean just like this many. I mean SUVs and stuff where a spare tire, period, is an upgrade. It's an option. Um, and so in that space that would usually have a tire, if you don't take that option, you get this canister of like sealant that you pull over to the side of the road, to the side of the road, and you apply this like sealant inside your tire, which sounds great to me. I'd rather spend the extra for the tire. In that case, I would buy like a full size tire instead of that little 80%er. Um, Oops, did I take it off? Yeah, we all have that spare tire. Nobody plans on getting a flat, but it happens when you least expect it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Fox, it says truck shell or topper. I guess he's saying that if you got a truck, you better put one of those on. Destiny says, if I'm going missing, the vehicle is coming with me. Paid way too much for the RAV4 to leave it behind. I like the current RAV4. The plug-in hybrid RAV4 right now, if I had any kind of money for a vehicle, that would be my top choice. The straight-up hybrid, it would be a very close second. I like hybrids because I'm not always, well, on years when I have any time, um, I'm not only driving in the city, right? I may go camping or whatever, and having internal combustion happening to make sure that everything's topped up right is important. Being able to stop anywhere to throw gas in. Like in Quebec, you can drive an electric from here to practically Hawkesbury because, every Côte Saint Luc barbecue has chargers in the not the sidewalk, the parking lot. So you can just stop in, eat, and charge up while you're doing it, right? But like if I'm going far, I would not want to depend purely on an electric engine for sure. Which is why, though I love the Rivian, I would not buy the Rivian. Hike with Mike says, I walk into the bush, so no need for the truck when I'm backcountry camping. Russell says, at this point, I feel that if I'm heading into the bush, I want my cabin with me. Well, I've got great news for you then, Russell. David says, you should put your cabin on wheels and add a motor. That way you make a great evergreen video. Oh, Country Boy says Tabor Corn 101 is in the glass. That's because it's after 10. Let me know what you think of it. I want some smelling and tasting notes. Christy's excited about Country Boy having opened that bottle. It says the Starlink Mini is a game changer for backcountry adventures. Compatible with the USB-C and a small 24,000 milliamp power bank will get you 3 hours runtime, Wi-Fi calling, access to maps, etc. That's good to know. Yeah. Like Mike says, air horn in case you get lost in the woods. The air horn will also chase off bears. That's like most of us just think about bringing a whistle, but here's Hike with Mike. He's got an air horn in his bag. Take that, bear. Destiny asks, Hike with Mike, how is it that some people have that great sense of direction in the woods or the backcountry? Never really understood it. Like, is it an internal thing left over from primitive times? Russell says on to Dave that it's really interesting. I didn't know they made a mini. I didn't either. Oh, it's tiny with a built-in router. Super lightweight. Could easily fit in your backpack without even noticing it. Like, I get the feeling that there's... Hold on. Starlink Mini. Starlink.com/ca. Roam with Starlink. It's called the Starlink Roam, I guess. Oh, yeah. This guy's got it in his canoe. Hold on. I'm going to share this. Oh, for land's sakes, work with me. Brave browser is requesting to bypass the system private window picker and direct asset. Yes, allow, for God's sakes. Show on stream. Show on stream. There we go. So it's $249 for the standard kit. So 50 gigabytes is $70 a month. Best for infrequent and individual travel with low usage. And unlimited is $189. Now, so this is their /CA. So these are Canadian prices. I see that it is significantly discounted at the moment. That either means they're having trouble selling it or they've got a new one about to come out. For travel, for camping, for boating. What was that? Yeah. So what are the specs? Antenna, field of view is 110 degrees. Manual software assisted manual orienting. 7 pounds. Huh. 802.11 AB all the way to AX. Nice. Wi-Fi 6. Wow. Huh. Okay. Little power supply. Keep it. Huh. All right. So that's good to know, right? Hold on a second. I've lost it. Oh well. Country Boy says it's 50.5%. I smell alcohol. Fair enough. Russell says, I guess satellite phones are nothing new, but satellite internet on the go, what kind of speeds do you get? That's an interesting question. Like with Mike says onto Destiny, that's a great question about Destiny's. She asked a question about direction. I got lost in the swamp once, called the Forest Service to find me, and they got lost too. Wow. Dave gets 200 down and 20 up. That's really good. That's unreasonably good. Russell says that's better than his dish, but he's heard that third generation is stinking fast. Yeah, that's almost what Russell pays, and for better speeds. Well, maybe you should, swap it out. I mean, what's to say that you can't use the Roam just at your place? There must be some kind of. So the Roam is probably not as good as the third generation household solutions, I guess. David says he's thinking of getting rid of Starlink since they put up a tower at the end of your road for 5G. Rogers put up a tower. Nice. Ashbury Rock says, David, speeds, price. So with the deal that I have with Rogers, I have their unlimited because I have my whole family on it. And what they do is if you go above, like it's unlimited, but they still have packages, right? 50 gig, 90 gig kind of thing. And so what they do is if you bust past, I think I'm with a 90, then you don't have to pay more and they don't stop your service. But what they do is they throttle you. So that tells me that broadband internet, is and 5G costs way less than we pay in Canada, right? Because if they can afford to not stop you after 90 gigs and just sort of throttle you, that means they're paying nothing. That means we're paying way too much in this country. Ike with Mike says, I'm off trail, I double back. Another thing I do, if on a sandy trail, common in Florida, I take a stick and make an arrow in the trail, pointing in the direction back to trailhead. Yeah, that's a good idea. Dave says the weight is 2.43 pounds for the mini Roam. Oh, that's interesting. So what was the 7 pounds then? I don't remember. I don't remember what was 7 pounds. For the 5G, David says speed is 100 down, 10 up, $50 a month, unlimited data. That's pretty good, David. And David says he can bundle it with their phones, so you'll probably get a bit of a discount there as well. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. I think I missed that Destiny was out. I missed that. Sorry. And if you're watching us, if you're catching up with the rest of the stream after the fact, Destiny, then sorry I missed it. Have a good night. I hope you sleep well. So that kind of thing, that Starlink Roam, that sort of creates a space for someone to say, I got to have my communications with me, right? Because if you're sort of Oh, sorry. Like if you could just toss that thing onto the front of a canoe and have signal while you're, like a live stream a canoe trip, I would add that to my 10 items. Absolutely. As a YouTuber, that would be like, that's an item right there. That's a basic. Yeah, Russell said exactly the same thing I was just thinking. Starlink Mini is perfect for the YouTuber on the go for sure. Yeah. Or the nomad, right? Someone who's in a different city every week and they're still trying to get work done, you know. That's pretty cool. And if they're making something like that, someone else is going to be doing it soon, which is interesting as well. Because in certain areas, like in Europe, Starlink is not the the slam dunk that it is in certain other areas because there are other people making similar systems. I know that there's a Canadian system coming online soon. It will not look as stylish, of course, as the Starlink system, but I'd be interested to see what the prices on that are going to be and what they do to Starlink prices. Now, Christy asked an important question though. Can you stop the service for a given period of time? Like if I was to get that for my travel trailer. See, that's an interesting question because the reason I'm saying the person on the roam is because I'm thinking about myself hitting the woods every now and again. But if I have to pay this thing every month, just in the off chance that I'm going to get to go to the bush like 4 times, in the year, then that is not affordable, right? Because then you're paying for all this time that you're not using it, right? Like if you're in the bush, it's not overlapping with anything. If you're sitting at home, it's really overlapping with your home network. Serge popping back in. Sorry, not too talkative this evening. The girlfriend got home when the live stream started, so we've been talking. Now I'll be going to take a shower and get to bed. Good night, all. Yeah, okay, whatever, Serge. Whatever, Serge. All right, good night, mister. Have a good night, and I will speak to you sometime soon. And have a great week until next Tuesday night. This says, I've mounted the Mini inside my vehicle, face up between my sunroof cover and the glass, running the USB cable back to the 12-volt power supply in your vehicle. It works perfect in motion, no signal drop. Very interesting. That really can be a game changer for the, for the bushcraft / survival / camping / van life YouTuber, That really does simplify things for the van life set. It really, really does. Great, because they're all YouTubing their vans and their adventures as a way of paying for their lives. I mean, their lifestyles, not their lives. Could go for cheese. So, is that big enough to put that onto the top 10 list for someone who's not a YouTuber or TikToker in the bush, though? Right now, does suddenly everybody want that so that they can, watch Netflix in the tent if it's a rainy ass weekend? Benefit also extends to people who drive outside of cell service. You can connect Wi-Fi calling if ever stranded and call for help. So, yes, but here's a question then, because do Androids do the same thing? When we were playing in the mountains, this happened a few times. okay, that I was out of. So like, yeah, it's good. This, right? So I've got like a Wi-Fi icon, and I've got a 5G signal icon. If I'm out of 5G, if I'm out of range for all those, then it switches to Starlink. Actually, it tells you aim your phone so many degrees this way to connect with a Starlink satellite. I kind of feel the ease of use of the thing that Dave's talking about here is better. But yeah. Um, David is being jubilant. He says, going down to 10 degrees C tonight. I love it. Yep, I love it too. I think that is fabulous. 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Russell says he loves walking downstairs in the morning into the cool air. Christy says, nice. Will you get the wood stove going? I would, even just briefly. I mean, the thing is, a wood stove can really heat the place up, and it wouldn't be that cold, but I have the window open and the smell of the wood fire going. I'm trying to hold on. I'm getting a little up north. So I believe the satellite connect feature is for sending text messages only. I'm sure. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Now that we mention it, I'm pretty sure you are. Thing is, it's not free. Well, right now it's free because they only switched to Starlink recently-ish, and so they're trying to get us all on board. But I don't want to pay for it. Like, I'm saying this, but I don't know what it would cost. I have no idea what it would cost if I sent some texts over satellite. David is asking Russell if the deer flies are gone. We have none here now. Christy says it's almost 9/1. Is that like it's almost September the 1st? Yeah. Just the occasional deer fly for now. Still too early for the wood stove. Maybe early October. Okay, fair enough. Russell says we'll have our first fire in September. If Country Girl glances at the wood stove more than twice, I'm putting on a fire. Okay. I was just seeing if I was missing any other comments. Christy says 9/1, so September 1st. Yes, the bugs are gone. Yeah. Yeah, this is the kind of weather that makes me think about camping. He hasn't even been drinking. Nope. In fact, right now I'm having tea. Before that, I had de-alcoholized beer. I did forget water, and I should have brought down some cheese. But that's okay. Did we even like finish our list? I think we sort of, sign our list. There were some good lists though. Both the Davids had some solid stuff. Hey, there's Long's Quest. How you doing, Mister Skip? Tell us your, just in one comment, if there's room, what are your top 10 outdoors tools for an overnighter in the bush, one that you're doing on purpose. You're not in a survival situation, and you don't have to include your backpack, your food, or your beverages. Oh, Russell is moving on to what David had mentioned earlier, non-essential items. A deck of cards, yeah, absolutely. Not essential, but can be very useful. I always have a deck of cards with me for sure. A book, some would say e-reader instead of an actual physical book. I would be afraid of cracking the damn thing, so I'd rather bring a book, maybe a magazine, definitely my journals, right? This is my trip journal, which I used for the first time when I was in Alberta, right? Those are business cards of the other bands. These are my notes about whichever town we were in. Right, along with whatever. Like I would bring something like this because I've always got one of these on the go. Which means I would bring obviously some pens, maybe my watercolor stuff since I've started painting again for the first time in like 3 decades. Pencils. How many of you know what these are, by the way? You have to be a real sort of design or pencil geek to know what these are. This says World Band Radio is always fun, scanning channels at night. So have they... What's the smallest one of those that still sounds okay? Do you know that? Because, yeah, I like a little World Band Radio. I have one back there, but it has never worked. I really should have jumped on the warranty for that. It has never worked. Oh, a foldable backpacking chair, yeah. Way more important now that I'm 53 than it was when I was 23, that's for sure. Get up and all my joints are like... you're a dad when, you get up and you're like... You sit down, you're like... You get out of bed and you're like... Reminds me of that Letterkenny, where the fat dude, where they're all at the bar and what's his name, the fat guy gets up and they're all like, "Whoa there, daddy. What's up, dad?" But yeah, so a folding chair. I've got a couple, but I just never bring them. I had bought them for hunting. Christy's asking if Chris ever got to where he's going tonight. I'm pretty sure he did. I mean, it's getting later. Well, actually, it's pretty early where he is, so maybe he's not there yet. Just taking a look at the list. So yeah, let's say your the non-essentials list is the fun stuff, the stuff you bring to enjoy. So if it's a World Band Radio, or it's watercolor stuff, or as Russell said, a deck of cards. I mean, excuse me, book, magazine. Like what kind of things just add to your trip, like for the pure enjoyment factor? Like, and I don't mean, well, look, I've got the family with me, so I'm bringing games. I mean, you're just on an overnighter by yourself. What would you bring as a pastime? Like for me, a deck of cards, even when I'm alone, I can be playing patience, right? Or whatever the other word for patience is, solitaire, or I can, do like faux tarot readings. I don't know what that means. Christy says, "How you gonna play strip poker with no cards?" Of course. And June bug smells like cheap perfume. I see. We're getting surreal. David says, "All I need is a campfire to sit by. I'm good." Well, I always bring a bunch of stuff and then end up just staring at the campfire. You know, like, oh, what if I get bored, or oh, what if I run out of pants or something? So I bring all this stuff that just ends up not being used. You know, bring a book that doesn't get read because, after supper and the sharps are put away. I just sit there, have a drink, and stare into the fire until I really need to go to bed. Yeah, there's real magic to just sitting there and staring into the campfire, especially if it's not like a an unpleasant night. You're warm, the fire's burning. Maybe you got a little whiskey or a little beer with you. Maybe not. Maybe it's a tea. Maybe it's just water. Just staring into the fire, watching the embers go up into the air. Starry night above. Life is good. Life is really good. Is that old song? Life is happiness indeed. I have everything I need. I am rich and unattached. What is that song from? It's a show song, but I don't remember what it's from. Russell said, "I sat by a campfire way too late, drank a little too much, but I know I had a good time because my clothes had a bunch of burn holes the next day." Okay. I do make it a point not to get 3 sheets of the wind sitting next to a campfire, so that kind of stressed me out. Though once, last year, the year before, while we were in Alberta, we had played this house concert, and they had like a swim spa, and we were all sitting in the swim spa after the show and after the party was over. So when I say all of us, I mean, like, the host couple and the band and I, and one by one people sort of drifted off to bed. I said, "I'm just going to sit here for another few minutes." Well, fuck, I fell asleep in the damn thing, sitting in the corner. Woke up miraculously alive the next morning. They're still telling that story. Because the swim spa is deep, man, compared to just a hot tub. I'm trying to think of like what else I would just bring as a pastime, a time passing thing, or like. I don't have it here because it randomly ended up in my gig bag, but I have a little knot practice kit, couple of lines, and some little instruction cards. And I think I've shown this on the live stream before, and we went to the website and took a look at it. But I would bring that because time spent practicing your knots or whatever is definitely not wasted time. Hold on. Mark Davidson is out. Good night, Mark. Yes, the mattress beckons for me as well. For me as well. Soon. I'm just sitting here thinking about cheese. So yeah, like that little knot kit would be good. Yeah. Whoops. Dave says, bring your sharpening stones to touch up your blades, or a cleaning kit for your firearm. Yeah. Down here, I'm not going to bring a firearm, but if I was somewhere, really far out there, I would absolutely bring maintenance for it. I think the only time I've ever Yeah, my father-in-law, his brother and I once went to do the preseason maintenance of our camp, my of our deer camp. The My father-in-law had gone up the weekend before and seen that the place had been gone over by a bear. So we had an implement with us that time, but the bear wisely decided to stay the hell away. But yeah, if you bring any kind of tool into the backcountry, whether it's that kind of tool or even just like your knife or your axe or your saw, well, your knife or your axe at any rate, it's good to have the tools you need to touch up the edge of the bit or the edge of the blade on your knife. Maybe oil up your wooden handles after using them, kind of thing. And also, you can really zone is not the word I was looking for. You can really zone out, um, just with the repetitive motion of trying to make that blade pristine, kind of thing. Um, Hold on. Country Boy still got a day off tomorrow, so he's going to stay up late for Mark. You're very giving that way. I usually have a set of metal spoons and a harmonica left at camp. Still haven't learned how to play them. I'm terrible at spoons, which for a Quebecois is a terrible thing to say, right? Because that's a really traditional instrument here. Not only here, obviously, but I'm garbage at spoons. Russell put another coat of oil on his axe handles this week. That is good. I like it. Nice work, mister. I should go through my tools and just see the conditioner. I mean, they haven't been out in forever, but like just make sure there's no rust appearing, from this tank basement or anything. I should do that soon. That's a good question. That's a good comment. Yeah, boiled linseed is what I use for sure. Yeah. Raw linseed oil penetrates the wood of the axe haft or the knife handles much better, but it takes so bloody long for it to stop being sticky that nobody uses it. Country Boy says that it doesn't matter if you can play the harmonica if you're alone, as long as you have fun doing it. That's a good point. I back that act, Russell. You put the rag in the wood stove immediately after. Yep. You need to put one more coat on. Yeah, I it's funny because there's a beauty to. I'll just take my grants for his axe, his my small forest axe. I'll take that as sort of the example, but I mean my Wetterlings hickory handles. They look gorgeous when they're brand new. That sort of light blonde wood. And as you oil them and use them, they really darken up, but they still look great. Even used and oiled and oiled and used and oiled and maybe a ding here or there, they still look fabulous. I love the changeable nature of wood in that way. That you if you had an axe for 30 years, he said, young, if you've had an axe for 30 years, it's very bloody apparent on the axe itself. I love that. It's like it's like bass guitars or guitars or instruments, especially the old Fenders that had the nitrocellulose finish on the bodies, right? Because like for instance, hold on. I never unpacked this after my gig last weekend. So this is very boring, so I'll be quick. But I mean, it has bearing. right? So I'll flip you upside down. Body on this, that's a polyurethane, right? It doesn't wear off unless you really have a go at it. I mean, I've got some dings on this now because I've had this base for what, 13 years. But like the neck and the headstock, that's nitrocellulose, which is what Fender used to use on their old basses in the 60s. Okay. And so over time, what's going to happen is this will wear off. It takes a lot of playing and a lot of time, but you can always tell when someone's been playing their instrument a lot because like they'll get like a raw spot where they always have their thumb moving up and down or whatever. Maple fretboards will get these sort of discolored spots where the finish has come off over years and years and years of use, you know. Getting carried away. And everybody loves that look. In fact, people pay big money for a 1966 Fender Jazz bass or Fender P bass or a Stratocaster, but they'll also pay big money for relict brand new instruments that have been gone over by the luthiers to make them look like they've been used for 40 years. And I've never really understood that because why would I pay a few $100 extra to have somebody kick the crap out of my new guitar, right? But anyway, so I love that with axe handles as well. You know, you can see decades of use and layers of oil and stuff. And so there's an absolute beauty to a brand new axe, but there's a whole different warmer beauty of an axe that you've been using for like 10, 13 years and oiling, and you dinged it off a rock. So like, you know, it's clear where you've reground very slowly with like sandpaper or sharpening stones, the bit where you accidentally dinged it off a rock. You know, it's like they've got stories to tell. Just yeah. All right, Dave's out. Good night, sir. If I didn't miss you, if you're out, good to have you around. It's gonna be good to be watching your stuff again soon. And yeah, sleep well. I also put out a mousetrap a couple of days ago. Bucket with water and some peanut butter smeared on the inside. Caught 3 mice last night. First night, 2 mice the second. It's because there are less mice around. Excuse me. Country Boy will wail away on a blues harp anytime he's alone. Might sound like shoot, but it keeps the predators away. Sounds like a Sasquatch orgy, and no one wants to get close to that. Fair enough. I would just bring some bagpipes or something. I'm just taking a look here. Only ever had mice inside the cabin once, many years ago. Figured out where they came in, never happened again. David says, I hate mice too. Got a mouse bucket in my garage and shed. I don't hate mice. I don't want them in my house, but I don't hate them. Mice were fun when I had 2 cats, let me tell you. But you know, they're just living their life, man. I don't want them. Like, I don't know if they carry disease or anything, though, right? Like, I don't want the mice around my kids, just in case. Anyways, good work with the mousetrap, Russell. It's nice to see you taking charge. Mr. Countryboy, I have seen your notes about the whiskey, and though I appreciate you not wanting to pollute the live with your notes, you can feel free to talk that stuff through for sure. Ain't no one here going to be mad at you. Russell says, the farm I worked at when I was 12 had cats in the barn. We never fed them. Catch mice for food or die. I assume that there's a lot of mice that live in a barn. So I couldn't see barn cats going hungry on a farm, no matter what. I mean, if the cat's big enough, it might even take out a gopher, right? That would have to be a pretty big cat, though. Yeah, mice are destructive. That is for sure. Squirrels are too, though, right? Squirrels are cute. Yeah, I know. They're still destructive. We have a marmotte in our backyard. We found that its hole is under our solarium. Gonna have to deal with that. What the hell's a marmotte? It looks like a beaver to a certain extent. What are they called? It looks a little bit like a beaver, but they don't go in the water. They're like ground hogs, maybe something. No, not ground hogs. What the hell's a marmotte? Hold on, I gotta look that up. Oh, Countryboy says groundhog. Oh, so yeah. No, not a muskrat. They have muskrats up at my mother-in-law's. Like, this doesn't look identical to a beaver. I'm just saying, like, it's a large rodent. It's not even as big as a beaver. But yeah, I've seen some muskrats up there. They seem a little grumpier than beavers, those muskrats. I kind of feel like I wouldn't really want to get involved with one in an altercation. Groundhog. I think prairie dogs are smaller because I saw a lot of prairie dogs out in Alberta, right? They're kind of what I was thinking about when I said gopher. You know, they're small. They're little guys. They stand up, looking around, and if one of them sees a coyote or something, it's like, meep, 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 and everyone just goes, poof, and they're all gone. David says, I found a dead rat the other day. It was gone by the morning. I think our local owl took it away during the night. That's the thing. Nothing that dies out in the country goes to waste, right? Country Boy says, muskrats are literally large rats that swim. Gross. Yeah, Russell. Like, prairie dog isn't out west thing. Yeah, I think you're right about that. He even says prairie in the name, right? Russell says unto David, it's too bad we can't communicate a little better with owls. Like the owl could swoop by for a high five. That's weird. I wish I could communicate with the the Cooper's hawk that sometimes lands in my backyard and say, leave the birds alone. There are squirrels. You know? I always know that hawk is about to land on my fence because I'll be standing out there grumbling at squirrels, and then suddenly they're just like just gone, and the birds too. Like, everyone's gone, and then I'm like, it's gonna poof, lands on my fence, looks around. I saw a squirrel, and it takes off. Just too bad. Cody had the idea when she was younger that we should like put these little leashes on the squirrels so they can't get away, but like breakable string so that the hawk can like. And so she was like 5-ish. I was like, you are troubling me, child. Yeah, David says, yes, just like Harry Potter. What was Harry Potter's owl called? It had a name. Not Hagrid. Not Hermione. What was that? I'm remembering an H name, but Hedwig. Hedwig? Is that like Hedwig and the Angry Inch? Was it Hedwig? Russell says, sometimes I wish we could communicate with the dogs in English so I could explain some stuff, but then I think I'd get questions like, why we no get chicken every day, mofo? It's pretty funny. Yes, it was Hedwig. It's weird how I will think that I cannot remember these, and then it'll just run go. Ah. Huh. Camilla's still up. At almost 11 on a school night? I'm going to go break some skulls. Hedwig. Yes, I wish I could communicate with the birds so that I could tell them things and have them tell me things. Cardinal, what is it like to be a cardinal? Russell says, yes, it should come as no surprise by now, but I can't remember any of your childhood, which is funny because I can't either. What did I say to Christy? They're back in school? No, Cody started today, and Clem starts next week. David says to Russell, next time you speak with Willow, maybe you ask her to leave her extra fur at the cabin. I don't remember what I was talking about, but yes, Christy, one of the two is back at school now. And the other one will be soon. Got their school supplies all squared away and all that stuff. The young one is quite excited to be going. She'll be going to grade 1, which makes me feel old. And the 14-year-old, what's her name, Cody, is going into has now gone into Sec 3. It's weird to think of that kid in Sec 3. I mean, it was kind of weird to think of her in Sec 1, but they just keep getting older. What is secondary 3 outside Quebec? I'll just count it up. So grade 6 is the last year of elementary. So grade 7, which is Sec 1, 8, Sec 2. So she's in grade 9. Yes, Christy. Yeah, it's 9th grade. Although we don't, almost no one here says 9th grade. It's like grade 9, or in Quebec, secondary 3. I once saw this video about how the way in which Canadians and Americans spoke, but like all the things you never think about. And I had never heard of 9th grade. And they said, yeah, Americans say 9th grade and Canadians say grade 9. I was like, what? But then I was listening and I'd never even come across 9th grade before. But yeah, it's crazy to think of that kid being in 9th. Now I'm doing it. It's all your fault, Christy. Yeah, I guess. Is that what? But why would that be freshman? Like, we don't use was it freshman, sophomore, junior, senior? Is that it? So does that mean that high school does not start in grade 7? Is that what middle school is? Is that what middle school is? Would that be 7 and 8 then? Hey, Steve Grounds is here. So 9, 10, 11, 12. um, so Quebec doesn't go past grade 11. It's 11, and then it's Cégep, which is college, I guess. But I know that in some places college equals university. In Quebec, it sure as hell does not. It's the phase between high school and university. It's like 3 years. You get a diplôme d'études collégiales. Yeah, so a college degree. Some of those programs mean you don't have to go to university because they're career programs like photography, graphic design, stuff like that. Others, it's kind of like prep years for university, and because it's free. I mean, it's paid for by taxes, but because you don't pay university fees or anything, it's an excellent time for, you sort of get the university experience because it's structured the same way in terms of choosing a class and stuff. But if you spent your whole life being like, I'm going to be a scientist, and then you start taking pure and applied and all that and realize I want to be a political scientist, then you can make that switch without wasting like thousands of dollars on a blown semester kind of thing. Yeah, Steve lurking in the shadows. Yeah. Raspberry Brook says 9th grade or grade 9 both sound fine to me. I think we used both. But you were in Toronto, which may as well be Chicago. I'm just being a brat. Oh my God, we're almost over. It's 22:58. So tea's good because it keeps me alive. This dealcoholized beer, I didn't love, but I now believe it might be because of the IBU. That might be a little too hoppy for me. So this is the Petit Bourgogne, which is Little Burgundy, which is where some of our legendary jazz musicians came from back in the day. Don't love this one. 0% Guinness is very convincingly Guinness. Anyways, I should be back in the saddle next week, but I haven't decided. Like, I may extend it to a dry September or something, because I did dry January and I lost a lot of pounds. And with these dealcoholized beers, you're getting like half the calories of an actual, alcoholized beer. But I haven't decided on that yet. Matt, hi. Just popping in right at the very end. I hope you're having a great night. So we're going to hold on. I just missed something. But yes, as Christy says, I hope everybody has a great week. Yeah, Russell. It's sports. There are terms like junior, cadet. Well, I don't know. They're different here, but they have English equivalents. Steve signed on for the second session. Okay. But yes, okay. So between now and next week, I would like every one of you to please be healthy, be safe, be sane, and be kind to one another. See you guys next Tuesday. Bye now.